changed different now, got the cheat code. A lot of y'all just watching, you ain't got the cheat code. Can't stay the same, yeah, you gotta switch it up. Can't stay the same, yeah, you gotta switch it up. Game changed different now, got the cheat.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Goddess Giselle podcast. If you're new here, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I am Goddess Giselle, and I created this space to really shed light on women making an impact in their communities across the world. We have just entered 2025, y'all. We have had such a tumultuous year so far, but we are jumping right back into the energy of empowering women and sharing really dope stories. So today we are tuned into episode 15 with Jessica Veronica. Now, I came across Jessica actually when I was taking the Cornell University women's entrepreneurship course. Jessica was an instructor. Okay. She was on camera giving us the tips on how to become better entrepreneurs as women. And when I saw her on camera doing her thing, I was like, oh, this girl is really into the energy. She is making an impact because she's literally teaching at Cornell her experience as an entrepreneur. And then I followed her work on LinkedIn and just seeing all the work she's doing in the fashion, tech, and AI space. Extremely inspiring. So without further ado, I just want to jump right in and welcome you, Jessica, to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling good. It was one of those days. I kind of felt like it was a Monday, but I'm finally coming down and feeling like, okay, everything's nice and lovely now.
Good girl, same here. Like I said, 2025 has been a lot, I think, for all of us as a collective. And so honestly, taking everything one day at a time, I think that's going to be the best bet for from now until the rest of the year. And so before we jump into the conversation, I'd like to start, first of all, thank you for being here and sharing your energy and voice with us. Let's start the conversation by, if you could share for us 3 people that inspire you and why.
Ooh. The first person is my mother. I think my mother is the definition of just a beautiful, smart, intelligent woman who just takes no shit. And one of the things that she told us is like, everybody else can kind of, mind you or be funny, but mind your business, mind your family, and get to your bag, basically. So I really love my mom. She's been like a great mentor. She's a lawyer, but she's like everything that I could become is because I saw her do it first. So she's a speaker. She's a writer. She was an educator. So it made it really easy to kind of just like follow her. The second person would be my late grandmother, even though she's in heaven. My granny was a boss, a property owner, land owner, she was a nurse. But she was very respected in her community and always had us in the community in church doing stuff, helping out. And I think growing up, seeing how much women hold up the community and how important it is to kind of like be multifaceted is super important. I guess who's the third person that I admire? Jesus.
Listen,
I'm gonna tell you why I admire. Because what I've learned over these last few years is I'm not here to save you. That's not my job. I can't down a cross for you. I cannot lead you to righteousness. Can't do none of that. But there is one who can, and his name is not me. And so I've been using that a lot this year. Like, it ain't going to be me who's going to do this for you, but, take it to the Lord in prayer. So those would be my 3 people on the top of my head.
Okay, Jessica, thank you for sharing that. And that makes all the sense in the world. And honestly, I am right there with you with that third person, spiritual entity, because shout out to all the Black women who are learning how to sit down, mind their business, and take that cape off. Okay. And that's really one of the main pillars of this conversation and of this podcast. I encourage women to rest, relax, and receive your blessings, receive the energy that you've been trying to pour out to others. Because we're in a new era. It's time for Black women particularly to learn how to rest and receive instead of trying to push, and give. That's just outside of our nature. And it doesn't end well for us. And so shout out to you for even championing that energy. So you said you've been using that this year lately.
Absolutely, because I think when you're capable, you kind of put the burden on yourself to try to do as much as you can. And when you see people who need healing, you want to heal them. And you see people who need to be poured into, you want to pour into them. But what I found is that you cannot be focused and bifurcate your focus at the same time. And so even that urge that you have where you want to help, you want to heal, I kind of think it's kind of naive. And it's also egotistical. Like, who are we to think that we can heal somebody, change somebody's mind? There is a healer here. There are so many ways that people can heal themselves, go get their help. So I think that take the burden off yourself as a woman of being the one who has to do that work and just focus. Like, you can't pour from an empty cup. That's something I've always heard but didn't apply. But also, like, you're better off doing as much as you can to make sure you're straight so then you can help versus trying to, you know, bifurcate your interests and help everybody else because you're not going to get much in return.
No, it could be a little in vain or maybe a lot in vain. And then you'll be mad at the other party for not receiving, not reciprocating, right? Like, see, some people say, I'm matching energy. Like, if you can't do this for me, then I'm not doing it for you. Like, that's an old program, y'all. We off that.
Right. Let's be as great as you can be. But you know what I've also noticed? Like, I feel like after dating this guy who I considered, at first I thought he was very selfish, and he kind of was. But I also really admired how hyper-focused he was on him and his goals and what he wanted to do. And I was thinking, like, I had to wonder, is that just a privilege reserved for men? Like, are we taught to have to constantly do for others and care for others, but men get to only do them? But I also wanted to embody that. So I did want to pick up an aspect of that self-centeredness, which can sound bad, but who else is the center of your world?
Exactly. But you. And Jessica, I think you're right. Unfortunately, that was a concept reserved for men once upon a time, right? Where it's like, you know, especially once you start entering different roles as women, and it's like you're supposed to just drop everything and focus on everyone but yourself. But like what you said, you can't pour from an empty cup, and your energy best is most suitable for yourself. And I actually heard that online, and she was a great philosopher. And I was like, hold up, I did not know that. She said the energy that you're trying to put out in the world is most valuable for yourself. And if we put that same energy into ourselves, then the way we show up in the world can actually make an impact, can change lives. But the minute that we try to be in our masculine energy, which is natural, okay, we are naturally both masculine and feminine. But when we as a collective try to push our energy out in a form of force, then we end up just like being exhausted, really. It's just pure exhaustion. And I've seen... Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
I was gonna say we spread ourselves too thin doing that. I got a energy reading like towards the end of last year, and she told me, the lady, she did like this womb healing. I had never had one done, but she was like, it was really lovely. I would say I think people should get one because I thought it was super helpful, and you meditate and you have these intense visions. It's really dope. But she had mentioned to me, she was like, you're in your masculine energy too much, and it's affecting your body. Like, you're forcing too much, you're trying to push too much. You got to tap into the feminine. And I was like, say less. Be soft.
Right. Okay. And we're gonna talk. Okay, Jessica, let's talk about you. And for the record, your name, your title, right? What are your professional title and family roles? If you carry any, I know you said you're of course a daughter, but if you're an aunt or anything like that, feel free to share that for the record.
Absolutely. So I'm Jessica Veronica Couch. I'm a fashion and technology expert. I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, and I'm a consultant. I've been an entrepreneur since about 2010, but I right now do have a day job, which is great. It's what I imagine having a husband is like. It just takes care of things, and it's kind of like chill. Yes, I am a daughter. I am an aunt to many nieces and nephews whom I love. I'm a granddaughter, I'm a niece, and I'm a really good sister. So I do have a lot of siblings. So that is my identity.
Nice. And then as far as your romantic life, because we do get a little personal on here just to level the conversation, because, you know, the girls be wanting to know. So are you dating? Are you in a relationship? And are you a mother, or do you have any children? For the record.
I don't have children. but the way I be raising these men, no, I'm just kidding. I don't have children. I am dating. I was in a relationship and it was kind of it was a little bit exhausting. Now, I'm probably not the most relationship lucky person. So like I've been reflecting lately on the type of people I attract or like what goes on inside my relationships or whatever. And I think right now I'm like, I think I just need to pour into me. I actually went on a date last week and the person, listen to this. The person told me, and we have been on a lot of dates. We've known each other for a while. It's a good dude. But he told me something. He said, it's kind of difficult to date you or be around you because when you walk in the room, he uses terminology. He said, you suck the life out of it. And I was kind of like, what does that mean? He was kind of like, well, whenever we go places, people, they notice you or they're in your face. They're kind of staring at you. And as a man, I just feel like that means I got to be on point all the time. And it's just a lot. And I was just kind of like, it's a mentality I didn't understand, but I wanted to have compassion for it because I'm like, wouldn't you want to be on your game all the time? And then also like, why does it matter to you how the world is perceiving someone that you're with when you're with them in an intimate space? And so with that, I reflected that he's probably not the only person that felt like that I have dated in the past that have felt like, I don't want to use the term intimidated because I feel like that's a cop-out, but they feel kind of a way that you can attract a certain attention or energy, or you can just be. I think it's confidence. I think that really confident women can be off-putting. So as a result of that, I'm kind of like, he gave me some advice, which was that I would have to reassure men a lot about their position in my life and how they felt. And I was just kind of like, I'm gonna put it on pause for now because I feel like you should be assured by a person's presence and attention to you what their intentions are. So that kind of threw me. So to answer your question, right now, I am dating lightly and mainly focused on myself because I don't want to be distracted.
Good. Go, Jessica, Veronica. You first. And that's why I created this podcast. Disclaimer: the Goddess Giselle podcast was created to create a safe space for women like you. You're making an impact in your community, in your being, in your essence. But for some reason, when you walk around, it's just unsafe because of your existence, because of your being. And that is not your problem. There's a song by Layla, who's this young artist. She says, not my problem. That's just not my problem. And what the gentleman is referring to, it's called pressure, right? And there's a song, I think it's 2 Chainz. Here I go. I'm such a music girl, but he's like, pressure, like applying pressure. When you have pressure, that's how you become a diamond. That's how you get better. And pressure is actually how you grow. And so what it sounds like, there was a mismatch of energy, and energy is everything, because the right man will run towards that energy of pressure, because when a man does not have a challenge, he will not stick around. Okay. Men they be bored most of the time. And so if they don't have any kind of challenge, or they're not up for the challenge, I'm sorry.
I'm fine. And I hate to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
I think some men, 2 things. I think men like women that don't challenge them in theory, because they want to feel strong and important and like they're but they don't realize that like being with somebody who is like dynamic doesn't make you less strong. It just makes you step up. So that's one thing I noticed. But 2, I've also kind of felt as if I think that men are so afraid of pain or like experiencing emotions they're not familiar with. They rather stay with something they know they don't have no business being with, or something that's easy, something that's not going to push them or help them grow, than to ever be challenged. It's something about being challenged that if they're not like top performers or people that are used to it, they treat it very oddly. And I love that you use the term unsafe, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And like I said, that's not your problem. That's something that he would eventually grow into or grow out of, hopefully. But I'm all for pressure. Okay. And I am married. I've been married for about almost 6 years now. But the number one, let me just put this on the record, the number one thing or trait that I saw in my man when he started coming into my frequency was that I set a challenge from day one, and he spent all that time and energy trying to come to the challenge, like be up for the challenge, and I was the challenge. And so as women, especially if you're a high performing woman, or you're just a woman who knows herself, right, a confident woman, that is your job, and you have agency to set those type of standards for yourself. And like I said, Jessica, the right man will run to the challenge. Like, that's actually pure masculine energy. That's why they watch sports. That's why they enjoy gaming. That's why they compete with their peers. That's why they try to make more money. That's masculine energy. So the right one, he gonna see you. He gonna want to climb up that tree. Okay. And he gonna be like, listen, what's the challenge, baby? Because I am up for it. So okay, I love that. Well, Jessica, enough about boys. Let's talk a little bit about your professional background, because I know, like I said, saw you in the Cornell program, and I follow your work on LinkedIn, and I was just like, what is this fashion tech intersection? Like, I know I could use some tech with my fashion. Like, I wish I had a bot or AI to tell me what I need to wear every day, because it's getting a little cumbersome. And then it changes so much. Fashion changes so much. It's like, I need this automated so somebody can like just do it for me. So talk to us a little bit about your professional background and your journey in entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. But first I'll say, like, that desire that you have is because you're probably such a high performer and have to make real decisions all the time. You're experiencing decision fatigue with more trivial things. So it's kind of like, when things are more trivial and you're putting your thoughts into more high-powered decision-making, functioning all the time, it's like someone else make this decision in the smartest way possible. So I feel you on that. I'm excited to tell you about fashion technology. So fashion technology is just the implementation of tech throughout the supply chain in fashion. And this is super important because, one, fashion is a $3 trillion industry that spans the entire globe. So the part that's on the runway or fashion week and people dressing up, that's one of the smallest pieces of this $3 trillion behemoth. Now, some of the indications that fashion is not, for instance, efficient or sustainable would be numbers like $64 billion of returns every year in shoes and clothing. 80% of those returns are due to things not fitting properly. So there's a disconnect between what's being made and how it fits on the body, which is odd because this is a product that has to lay on the body. So if it's not fitting well and 87% of those items are being returned, it's contributing to billion-dollar problems. The second number that indicates the type of issues we're having in fashion would be $50 billion of dead inventory. Now that's inventory that stays in a warehouse. It never leaves a shelf. It never leaves a store. Now the problem with this is you can write off things on your balance sheet for returns. You can always say, okay, well, we're going to incur an expense for returns every year. So we've already written that off. But the dead inventory piece is where it gets a little nasty, because what happens with these pieces of clothing that doesn't sell? Now, first of all, you could walk by that in a store and you just not know how it fits or what it's going to look like or what to wear it with, or you may not even realize that would look so good on me. So there's a disconnect between products and people. And then second of all, those items end up just in waste and like landfills. So I just got back from Ghana and I love Ghana.
Wow.
It was so good, and the food was just wow.
Were you there for Dirty December?
I was, and I was speaking at a STEM conference called Ghana to the Moon, and teaching the Ghanaians about STEM opportunities. In particular, what I didn't realize is that Ghana was receiving 15 million pieces of clothing waste from countries like the UK, from China, all these places, because when items don't sell, they have to dump it somewhere. Now, forget that we all live on the same planet and that we all have to share resources. There's an idea in fashion that like it serves a small percentage of people originally. Like the whole idea of fashion was for the 1%, way back when everything was custom. As it's become global, you have to cater to a global population, but then you also have global problems. And so technology is here to resolve some of those main problems and just make everything more efficient. For all my girls that worked in fashion, and maybe you were a merchandiser or a buyer, you worked in marketing or design, you worked in departments that were completely siloed. So like You could be doing a fitting in one part of the building and gathering information about fit that should probably be used for the e-commerce team. That data never even makes it over there. That's an inefficient. You could be designing things by hand and it's taking forever. Now you got to like take that sketch, send it to the tech team. They're going to tell you how it should be made. You send it to a factory in China. They take a couple weeks, send it back as the wrong thing. You've got to send it back now. They send it back as the wrong thing. These are weeks. This is time. This is money. And when I realized that that's how much inefficiency was in fashion, I was like, I think this is a problem I can solve. Now,
wow.
I felt like that because I was like, one, I had come up in as a retail associate. Like I spent 10,000 hours in fitting rooms listening to how people thought, really understanding what drives purchases and decisions. And I was like, okay, then I can own a store. And when I owned a store, I was like, there's so much more I could do if we had this much of technology implemented. So then I left the store and I was like, I worked as a stylist. I worked on Vogue sets. I was on the Lady Gaga Art Pop set that was really dope. Like I was working my way up in different areas in fashion to figure out how would technology really integrate. And while those things were dope and distracting, but I met a lot of friends, I was just determined that technology was going to change our industry forever. And so after working, being an entrepreneur, kind of like graduating, figuring stuff out, I was like, I'm gonna go get my master's at Cornell. And so the dope thing about the Cornell master's was they let me put it together. And
nice.
Thank you, girl. Susan P. Ashdown, Professor Susan P. Ashdown, really believed in my dream and was like, you can come up here and put your own master's together. Come. And I did. And what is important to me, thank you. I knew that I didn't have to be a coder or an engineer to know how to solve a problem, but I did know how to communicate with them. So part of my master's degree was taking those courses, figuring out how to build business as an engineer, how they thought, how software developers thought. And then I did my thesis on retail innovation, which was basically around what's going to drive conversions. How are we going to get people to convert online and in-store? And I did like all these observational stuff. Now, forget all that nerd stuff. That was really early, I'm gonna be honest. So like I was so early, there wasn't really a lane for me. So thank God I was able to carve my own. And now it's really coming. So like I graduated 10 years ago from Cornell when I first came out, and I did some consulting work. I worked as a product manager so I could really understand how to build products from the perspective of customers while working with your tech teams. And then I started an agency. It was good, but it was a little bit of a distraction. And now I'm right back in fashion tech because now the world is like, oh, we need to innovate. This is fun. So sorry for that long spiel.
No, that's what we're here for, Jessica. This is all about you, and I appreciate the everything. So please, no apologies here. Like I told you, this is a safe space, girl. So all is open. Okay, let's rewind a little bit and talk about your trip to Ghana because on this show, I love to highlight the global impact. Right? I think women like yourself, we're making you're making your footprints across the globe, right? We might be in the United States, but I love what you said. I did not know that fashion was for the 1%. When you said that, that made me think of maybe the Great Depression time. So like around the 1920s when Harlem Renaissance era, which by the way, we're in a new Renaissance. It's the digital Renaissance. But and so they would wear those top hats to show that they had money, like the Titanic era. And then you couldn't wear certain attire if you didn't have like longer money. So talk to me a little bit about that 1%. And also your trip to Ghana, because that sounds really amazing.
I can't wait to talk to you about Ghana. So let me get the 1% out the way. So originally, way back, let's go back to like the 1800s.
Yes.
Fashion was for the elite. So the people that were getting couture garments made and all the nice stuff were in royalty courts. And then people were able to see it. Or even, I want you to go back to the Bible times when purple was a sign of royalty so that the elites could distinguish themselves from everyone else through what they had on. Whether you did that with jewels, armor, fashion, couture, it's always been a way to separate yourself. Now, as time went on, you had these really large fashion houses like the Dior's and the Balenciaga and whoever else. They catered to the elites. So as the elites left royal courts and they became very rich people or baronesses or people who were, movie stars or whatever, it still was for the elites. All of the fashion was for elite people. And these houses kind of controlled the vibes. They control what would be made, and they control what people saw and associated with luxury. And these luxury houses are very, very old. This is nothing new. So then we move into the era of mass production. So, and I'm skipping around a little bit, but I want to get through this. We moved through the era of mass production where the masses now needed uniforms, things to go to work in, things to go out in. So that is a different level of fashion. It wasn't really like the high elite fashion. You couldn't get the couture items, but you could get things like uniforms and things to wear to work. And that is when the divide kind of began. So you can even tell by how much things cost, who's it for and who is it catering to. You can tell by the models, all of those things. But fashion, I don't think in its inception was ever supposed to be for the masses. And one of the indications of that is just how things are made and like also how much people are struggling to be consumer centric. Because fashion also relies on having kind of a permanent underclass that does like the heavy work. So the sewers and the people that are really putting these together can barely ever afford to purchase a garment. And that's problematic, which is why in many ways, fast fashion was seen kind of as a compromise, right? So everyone could wear these certain styles and trends that the elite usually wore, and like things like the working bag, without having to pay the price for it. But the problem with mass consumption is just that, it's mass consumption. Once you devalue a product and you commoditize it, it can create a dynamic like we're in now where there's a lot of waste and there's clothing everywhere. Nothing's really special about it anymore.
Gotcha.
High-end luxury people are making like literally like sandals and t-shirts and slapping their name on it because it's all intrinsic value. But because people have conspicuous consumption, they still buy it to separate themselves. So I've been in the industry so long around fashion, I have to ask myself sometimes, like, do you hate it? And I'm like, I don't know.
What? That was okay. Oh my God, Jessica, fun fact. And I was going to talk about this, but it clearly naturally came up. The working. I want to get your 2 cents on it. And I will share that story time, long story short, I saw the working go viral on the Clock app. And the reason initially went viral was because there was this cute Black girl. She had culture, right? She had like this orange wig, had on a North Face jacket. She, a younger girl, probably like 24, 23. She was at Walmart in her natural environment. It was like early November. And she was like, yo, she made a TikTok. Why I'm in Walmart finna buy me a Birkin, right? And she was the reason, her name is Imani. She's the reason why that bag went viral. Okay. So yes, it was her energy, her essence, the way she created that video. Of course, I saw it when it first went viral. Girl, I bought me 3. Okay. I bought 3 and I was just doing it as a joke because I thought it was funny. And I'm like, this girl just made this little bag so cute because it wasn't the bag. It was her energy, what made it so cute. Girl, I bought that bag, sharing my link. That video went viral. I made a few coins off of it because I am a creator with Walmart. Listen, affiliate coins. Girl, why USA Today hit me up to put me in it made an article with my Birkin, my working article. Good. Used my video on USA Today. And I'm just like, not me going viral for this working bag. But I will say exactly. And shout out to the people, because that was just a pure people revolution. But Jessica, you as an esteemed fashion, expert, what are your thoughts on the working Birkin like timeline? Like, what are your thoughts on it? Because I thought it was hilarious, but I'm not really a big fashion person. So I just thought, I rocked it. I rock it now. It's cute. Okay. And somebody thought it was real. And I did correct her and I gave her the link. Okay. So now she got her working. But as a fashion expert on the record, what were your thoughts about the working?
So my opinion is probably going to be a little different because I'm quite jaded. And having studied the history of the Birkin bag itself, I'm like, I love quality things because they last, and I'm totally into that. I think like your product should be high quality because of functionality purposes. However, I do think that there's a lot of intrinsic value in fashion that is inflated because it's a desirable object and that people like it. So, like, while I've never desired a Birkin bag, simply because, making this much fuss over a bag for a woman who not only doesn't look like me, but probably doesn't care about who I am, just seems a little counterintuitive to who I am. So I didn't care about it. But also knowing the difference between how much it costs to make things and the quality that's put in it and trying to figure out the functionality of it, it wasn't that deep for me. So when I saw the bag and how much joy it brought people to have access to it, it's the same intrinsic value. That bag makes people feel like they're a part of a certain group. That bag makes people feel like they have value. That bag makes people feel like they're fly. And as long as you have those feelings associated to things, I'm never going to say that it's wrong. It's a feeling that's associated, not quite the product itself. Now, I think it was a very interesting move from Walmart because you can tell they're trying to cater to a demographic. They're trying to move units, so that's fine. But I think, like, luxury is a funny game. Luxury is a total mind, and for lack of better words, it's definitely a mind game for which depends on the value you put into it and the groups of people you want to belong to. And when you wear luxury, those groups of people acknowledge you. You get to be a part of it. It's a whole psychological thing. Now, nice stuff is nice stuff. Fly stuff is fly stuff. I do like things that are fly. But I kind of was like, you know what? Let them
have it.
Let them have it. What's the problem?
Let them have it. Don't even interrupt, okay? And I know Beyonce, I love, shout out to Beyonce always, but Beyonce said it in I'm in my bag. She was like, that Telfar, my Birkin is in storage. And I remember when Telfar went viral, which I support all Black-owned luxury brands. I got a Telfar, Glamaholic, House of Side. Anytime I come, Brandon Blackwood. So shout out to all the Black-owned luxury designers who are truly making an impact because they're creating their version of luxury. And if you take it back to the 80s, right, now like the Dapper Dan era, Black people was the ones who was taking that fabric of Louis Vuitton and different and making it fire, making it culture, giving it some spaz. And so I feel like the working was another version of it. Like, baby, I bought my mama one. She got a red one, her working, and she looked good in it.
It's about how it makes you feel. It's about sometimes it's logos, sometimes it's silhouettes, sometimes it's fabric for people. But I feel like fashion is all about how it makes you feel so that you can kind of make it your own. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Love it. On the record, baby. So rock your working.
Rock your working with pride.
There you go. Okay, Jessica, let's talk about this trip to Ghana. Okay, what was it? Let's talk about it.
First of all, I was like, well, I don't think I want to go back to the US. So let me just tell you this. I had a very unique experience because one of my best friends, who she and I went to middle school together, and I've always admired her because she is so poised and just ladylike and humble. She's one of the women, like, if you talk over her, she don't get upset. She'll just pause as if to tell you, like, no, you finish. It's fine. She's so gracious. Her father is a king in Africa. And the whole time we were growing up, although I heard that, as a Black American, you hear that, but you don't know what that means. You don't know what weight it holds. And so I remember, sorry, I'm sitting on this little pillow because I have a short torso. And okay, there we go. So before I left, I met with her and she was like, Couch, are you ready for your trip? And I was like, I mean, kind of. She was like, do you have your visa? I was like, I'm gonna pay on site. She was like, well, do you have your shots? I was like, I'm not really trying to get no vaccines to go to Africa. I'm Black. So she was like, I'm gonna reach out to my father so that he can make sure you're straight. Girl, so her father FaceTimed me, he was like, send me a picture of what you have on. I'm like, cool, whatever. When I landed and I was walking off the plane, right where you drop your bags, they opened a door and this man was like, are you Jessica? And I was like, I am. He was like, come this way. So I walked down those stairs. They had a car waiting. We were driving on the tarmac. I'm like, either I'm being kidnapped or this is how I should roll up to Africa. Like, let's go. So they take me to this VIP part of the airport. They take care of everything for me. And they're like, now mind you, this is my friend's dad. So we all know him in a different light, but they're like, yeah, King such and such has prepared lunch for you at the palace. So I went to Ghana on a high of like, oh, then This is how good African people are to me. One, I was speaking at a STEM conference, so that was incredible. And two, one of my other really good friends owns a private jet company, and he's Ghanaian. So he was like, I'll take you to all the spots every night. So every night we had dinner, we went out. It was great. I'm not going to hold you. I was like, I don't know what I expected, but I was like, I don't think I want to leave. Like the weather, bomb. Food, bomb. Women, beautiful. Everyone was stacked, built, no cellulite, no matter how thick everybody was. So I was like, I know we're eating wrong in the US. I know we're eating wrong here. Everything I ate was delightful. Get sick. It was so incredible. The part that I had to I had to come back to reality was I went to a market, and when you see kind of the disparity between people who have and who have not, it makes you really value middle class society here in the US because we have bureaucracy, and because we have bureaucracy, we can have things that are nice and that like keep things going. But one of the things that was happening with Ghana that I noticed is that 15 million pieces of textile waste were coming in from different countries, and they were everywhere. I mean, it was like in the sewers, in the street, in the beaches. And when I saw that, and I thought about like the richness of a place like Ghana because of the culture and the people, not because of things, not because of stuff. It's a different vibe. To see how it was soiled with these cheap garments from all over the world, which represents another population's absolute waste, I felt convicted. I was like, this was the end of life cycle experience that I needed, because I've always known how garments are produced. I grew up having custom garments made, and my father and mother had garments made all the time. And like, I grew up understanding the fashion design process. I worked in fashion houses. I grew up understanding like, okay, selling clothing. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I was on sets where they had $500,000 minks, which I didn't know existed, but I tried it on because how would you
right.
know? To see the end of these garments in places as beautiful as that, I was like, oh, this is not how things should be. And it made me come back and think differently about, okay, this whole system is messed up, and technology can help it.
Yeah. I saw that on, there was a Netflix documentary by now, and it was about the Amazon really, and how they kind of use psychological tactics to make all of us buy everything all the time. By now, it's on Netflix, but they actually did show Ghana, and they showed the waste. They showed where fast fashion ends up, or not even fast fashion, just fashion stuff that people are buying. Where does this go once we consume it? So it's like this overconsumption of things. And they show Ghana. And then I also recall, I think that was this year before the LA fires, one of the largest markets in Ghana was actually burned down, or had a fires.
That market, and I won't say it because if I say it wrong, I'm gonna be so embarrassed. So that particular market employed over 30,000 people. And what they were doing is, these 15 million pieces of clothing waste would come in. I'm not going to call it waste yet. 15 million pieces of clothing comes in. These merchants were buying it without ever seeing what it was. They would have to shift through it, figure out what was sellable, what was not. Some things had holes in it, blah, blah, blah. Now, over time, it created diminished value because the quality of pieces kept getting worse and worse. So a lot of the people that already worked in the markets were already struggling, because it's one thing to resell really nice pieces of clothing. It's another thing to resell fast fashion that's already fallen apart, which is mainly the reason why people even give stuff away. So that market mysteriously catches fire. And it wasn't the first time that a fire had broken out, but it was the first time that the entire market burns down and 30,000 people who were resellers are now displaced. Let me tell you what I think is going to happen. I think we got to pay attention to what fast fashion company, manufacturer, or what they're going to do with the land, and we'll have a better understanding of who was responsible and what was the real goal there, because those merchants relied on that for their livelihoods, and for it to go up in flames is kind of insane to me.
It was, and I think it was right before the fires in LA, because I remember seeing that news, and then I think maybe a week or two later, it was something in America, like it was happening in LA. So definitely our hearts go out to everyone impacted there. And I mean, that was just crazy.
Wild.
And so, how long were you in Ghana? You were there for like maybe a couple weeks, huh?
Well, girl, I was there for like 10 days. I was in
Yep.
and out. I was like, I gotta get back, but I wish I would have stayed there for the whole month because I probably ate like 2 pounds of rice a day and nothing happened. I was bloated. I didn't gain any weight. I was just like the happiest person. I was like, what is going on in America? And it's food. And the women
Right.
and nobody was like, you know what I really liked about it? I like going out and we don't have to hear trap music. I really love piano music. Like I love South
Yeah.
African house. I like being out
Yes.
more ignorant. I like being out and it's like a vibe where everyone's chill and beautiful and calm. And it's not like too loud where you can't mingle or too ghetto where it's like, what is going on? It feels
Right.
safe. It's beautiful. It's high end, high class. I was like, feels like luxury to me.
Exactly. And America is just pure, so capitalism. Okay. Everything is capped here. And so sometimes you can't even just have a vibe because they're trying to cap. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this. Because now I'm hearing a theme of intercontinental fashion. I am American. I'm American and Nigerian. So my dad is Nigerian and I'm American, or my dad's Nigerian, my mom's American. She's from North Carolina. Shout out to the home team. And so, as a Nigerian American girl who grew up American, I do have respect for, I guess we could say, the intercontinental fashion, like how, fashion is respected in certain spaces. Like we have European fashion, we have, fashion in like South Africa, but then also in Nigeria, in Ghana, and then even the United States. I think New York City, we try to, put our bid in as being one of the fashion capitals of the world. But Jessica, what are your thoughts on this intercontinental fashion, I guess, movement, to where now we're being exposed to different styles and like being able to express ourselves a little more authentically based on just how you're feeling, and not being, this is what I'm trying to say, not being tied to a location for your fashion inspiration, right? Because of tech, we now can see fashion in Tokyo, which I feel like they have the flyest street fashion. And it's like sometimes I be in Atlanta looking like, where the fashion at? Like, I want to see people doing too much walking down the street. You know what I mean? So talk to me a little bit about that, like your take on just, I guess, fashion trends across the globe.
Yeah. So I relocated from New York, and that's one of the things I miss about New York. Is such an international place, and you just see so many people in so many different styles. And when I'm in Europe, I really love European style, depending on the country I'm in, because they have subtleties about their style and nuances where it could be like more like a demure, but like flyness, like well tailored, nice fabrics. I love the international fashion scene because I do think that globalization has allowed us to experience different cultures and fabrics and style lines and silhouettes. So like you're not obligated to what's just in your mall anymore. You can literally see things all over the world. And that helps you to define your own style better. And I do think like fast fashion tries to keep up with all the different styles because there's a ton of them all over the world. No one fashion house determines what the look is anymore. It's not like one person shows up and they're like, the look for this year is this, and everybody do it. Life is not the Met Gala. It's more of like it's almost like a market where you have all of these different silhouettes, colors, fabric styles. I love it so much, and I think it's necessary. I really don't like going places where the fashion is bad. I really don't. I feel like it sets a negative tone, and I'm like, oh, you can already tell how people are going to act. I feel like how you dress and like what you wear can help to define how you think and your surroundings and having an appreciation for it. So like I love the global perspective. Also, I think we get so caught up on like social, and like social keeps repetitively showing you something you've interacted with. You'll forget that there's other styles and things that you can do. Like you really be thinking that everything's a bodycon or everything is something that you see when you go out or everybody look like they in the club, and that's just not it. So I have a deep appreciation for like international style. I love understanding people's cultures by how people dress and put things together. It's beautiful. And you start to see beauty in a different way. Before I started my LLC Luxor and Finch, which was originally a store, I had spent a month in Egypt, and all my like understandings of women had shifted. I thought that
Mhm.
the Egyptian women were going to be wearing burqas and all of these things because they were forced to, and it was shameful. This is back in like 2010. But when I got there and I saw how beautiful women look when they were covered, how beautiful women look when they weren't covered, how like different fabrics, linens and cottons, because you're out here in the hot sun and it's different cultures, it changed my mind. I named my whole business Luxor and Finch after visiting Luxor, Egypt, and feeling like I was transformed by just the duality of nature of women there. You had women that were
Wow.
biased and dressed head to toe and nothing but black, face beat, nails done, jewelry just glammed up, rich as I don't know what, and looked way wealthier than somebody who had their ass out. For the first time, I was like, I felt shamed, and I like a little cleavage, a little thigh meat. You know, I'm an American. So,
Yeah.
an appreciation for different styles and things that if you're not exposed to it, maybe you wouldn't know it even exists.
That's good stuff. I mean, you know, I agree. I mean, I think that's brilliant. I mean, you're the expert here. I love to hear your commentary on that. And I think just different tech, like you said, like we're talking about tech, using tech to be able to see beyond your borders has really elevated even my own consciousness. Because even like in Brazil, the women of Brazil dress a certain way, but it's like the most immaculate looks and feminine and so soft and leisure looking, but their street fashion is just so different. And but then you have Tokyo, which we're planning to go to Tokyo soon, and it's like Tokyo fashion is a whole different level of expression. And I just want us here in the United States to just be a little more open to who we really are, right? Like open up a little bit, because I know when I was in college, for example, there was no fashion, like zero. Okay, I went to a PWI. I went to the University of Alabama. Exactly, and I was definitely open to fashion, kind of then, whatever. But when I got to on campus, I'm talking about t-shirt and jeans. But the girls were serving fashion in their, let's just say, their private spaces, right? Like some of their sorority stuff, like some of the like the non-melanated peers, like they basically like on TikTok they had Bama Rush, which was really popular, and these girls were wearing their attire, like they would have their jewelry and clothes. They're wearing like $15,000 fits in the middle of the day, right? And so I'm not mad at it either, but I had no context, right? Like I didn't even know the girls was serving, but then when they start showing their outfits, people was like, "Oh, that shirt was 1,200, the pants 900, the jewelry 1,500, that bracelet 9,000," and I was just like, "Dang, some of this fashion, this luxury is very quiet, right?" Like you wouldn't even know.
Luxury in the South. We have old money luxury things, like which I have an appreciation for fashion everywhere, but in the South, when it comes to different ethnicities, the old money wealth is completely different. It is just wow. And then you have the wealth amongst like the Black Southerners who are wealthy. That's different too. And then just Blacks in general with church. Church was the first place I ever went to where I'm like, this is a runway every Sunday. Like I loved how dressed up all the women were. You wouldn't know how much money they made because everyone looked rich to me as a child. I was like, everyone's rich and beautiful on Sundays. And there is an appreciation for it, but there's absolutely a need to see the world. You've got to see the world. It influences your taste buds. Like it influences the colors you like, the silhouettes you like. Like Japanese fashion to me, oh my God. Sometimes I'm like that's just on a whole nother level of styling, whole nother level of silhouettes, whole nother level of fabrics and like things that I'm like, wow, I would feel like my wardrobe is not prepared. Like I would have to go and get some looks while I'm over there and then walk around and feel like, all right, like I'm good now.
Right. Like a walking Instagram aesthetic, or not even Instagram, maybe I don't even know which platform. You see that it's even bigger than that. Okay, so since we're talking about location, Jessica, let's talk a little bit about your so one thing I've seen online is the girls, right? They're talking like where should we move next? Like I was in Atlanta, I'm trying to move from Atlanta, or I lived in LA, New York, and they're trying to go somewhere to do something. I don't know what, I don't know why, but let's just say, environmental impact on your growth. And I know you're a New York City girly. Talk to us a little bit about your world in New York City and how that like leveled you up in your career, because I think the girls do need to move around a little bit now, especially if you're like somewhere where you're like this and nobody around you is like that. So let's talk a little bit about you living in New York and what that was like.
Yeah, so I did the mass exodus out of New York in the middle of COVID due to like family health stuff, for which it took me a long time to adjust to. But like, it's an adjustment to me. New York City, it's just no place like it. I love it so much because you're in a different mindset. Like, it moves so fast, and you become the type of person that can hyper focus. Like, even like dating in New York was different because everyone's busy, everyone's moving fast. Like, so you can schedule stuff for the weekend, but you are focused on the fact that you live in New York. And if you're not quite in the penthouse yet and you don't own it, you probably got to stay focused. But it's a gentle reminder every day. And what I like about New Yorkers is like, it's not a lot of phoniness. Like, when people say it's dead ass in New York. Like, people are exactly how they show up. The only problem is that, to me, is like, how I show up is exactly how I am. But I've also learned that like, that's just, I don't know if it was just a New York thing, but the rest of the world is not like that at all. It's a whole lot of fake and phony people that's posing and weird. Like, a lot of my New York friends that went to LA were like, I just can't give it to people in LA. And like, my sister lives in LA. She can't give it to people sometimes, but there is no place like New York because it makes you an animal if you want to be one, or you can get lost in it. For me, I needed to get in touch with my animal side because I had to learn how to really make it, put the pressure on yourself, like you said, to make a diamond, and get out there, network, trust your instincts. My dad once said to me, he was like, New York is the only place you can walk right over somebody and not think twice about it. And before I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And then one day I caught myself, it was like somebody in the middle of the street. And I'm like, I don't got time for this. I was living in Harlem at the time. Like, people in Harlem be wilding, and you just like going. So like, it definitely has its upside to teaching you how to be very focused and to navigate spaces. And the best thing about New York is like, you can leave your borough, which a lot of people don't, but when you're not from there, you can leave your borough where it's safe and people look like you, and you go into a world, but you can talk amongst the best, speak to the best, and feel confident because we're all here. Like, I rarely ever felt really intimidated when I was in New York. There was nothing that I ever felt like I couldn't be in a certain room with a certain group of people. You bumping into people all the time. I think that's necessary to also humble you and to also add a human aspect to people that you may see as a celebrity or influencer or whatever. At the end of the day, people, and depending on your spirit and your vibe, that kind of is the value in which I associate to people, is what did their spirit feel like? What's their vibe like? And that is what New York is all about, a vibe. So I really loved it. And I really liked it. When I had to leave, I was like, what? So New York is one of my favorite places, but I do think it's necessary to move all over the world because you really got to figure out who you are. You got to figure out when things are good. You got to figure out who you are when things are bad, when it's snowing, when it ain't no sun, when it's cold, where, you know, you got to really, if you want to, like, let me not say you have to. For me, it's very important for me that I am always becoming my best self. So like, I challenge myself or punish myself as often as I like to make sure that I still have it. I still got a dog in me that if necessary, I can do everything I say I'm going to do. So I trust in myself more than I trust in anything else, because I've whatever you open up that mouth and say, you better do it. So it doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is. I know if I've said it, I'm committed to it. And New York helped me with that tremendously. But only, I guess, if you have a goal of getting better. And, you know, I've realized in dating and other stuff, that's not everybody's goal. Everybody doesn't want to. Like, you know, so you got to find your tribe of who wants what.
Now, when you, and I love that piece, because you're right, everybody is not built for that. They don't want that. But in your friend circle or your girl squad, do you find it important to be surrounded by women who are kind of similar to you as far as like wanting to level up, or can you kind of accept people if they're content or, you know, have a different attitude? Like, what does that look like for you? Because I bet you were probably by yourself when you moved to New York, huh?
Oh, yeah, that was a solo mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blessed enough to attract such incredible people. And I'm
While
open,
you were in New York?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
attracted a real tribe that, I mean, I loved them so deeply. And I was so fortunate to have so many different types of friends, because even though it's my goal to level up in a certain way, you attract people, they're already leveled up. Maybe they're just,
Mm-hmm.
but there is something about being able to learn from everybody. Like my core group of girlfriends, yes, a lot of us are like, let's keep going. Like a lot of us are like, we are Navy SEALs out here. We keep going. We're going to push. We're going to get to it. And we understand, we have comfort in that. We understand each other in it. The ones who are not quite that way are still valuable in the group, because maybe they've already achieved it and they're reminding you to like add a bit of softness to your life, or add a bit of, R&R. But like, yeah, my core group of friends, you can be whatever you want to be, but my requirement is that you keep it a band with me at all times. I don't care if it hurts
Yeah.
my feelings. I don't care if I'm wilding out and you're my friend. I expect you to level me. If you see me slipping and you're my friend, I expect you to remind me of my own goals. If if whatever it is, I find that iron sharpens iron, and that is a requirement within my friendships. And I also take that mentality into relationships with, which I'm not quite sure if it always works the same, but I do know
Mm-hmm.
people out quickly, because you can't be a friend to me and you're not keeping it a band with me and being honest with me and making sure that
Mm-hmm.
I'm my best self, because that's what I bring to the table. That's what I'm going to
Yep.
do. Me and my we're pushers. We hustle. We love to keep going. We encourage each other. We have spirituality. We understand deep friendship, and we understand sacrifice. We understand all of these concepts that are kind of like, it's almost like we're a gang, sort of. But
It's definitely a gang.
it's a gang. But it's, you find women on that vibe, and it's a lot of things that don't even need to be said. You could just feel it, and you make new friends, and you value your long-term friends. So I've been really blessed.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Jessica. I noticed, honestly, ever since the pandemic, there has been an uproar of conversation surrounding feminine friendships. And I think not just friendships, but really everything, because 2020 was a self check. It was a time where we were all as a collective called to change, right? The planet itself took a break. She said, you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of all y'all using me up, using my resources. I'm just finna sit down, okay? Matter of fact, I'm finna level up. And if you can't catch my vibe, then you probably don't need to be on this new planet, right? So we're definitely going through this ascension process. And the earth is calling for us to level up spiritually, mentally, physically. And if you don't, then she's literally just like, all right, well, don't come. You see what I'm saying? Like the feminine is very cutthroat. And that's something else I'm learning as I enter into my version of womanhood. This whole lovey-dovey, oh, we all besties, that's not authentic feminine being. Because have you ever seen two cats that's cool? Just not really. Cats are a feminine species. Cats do not just, hey kitty, hey kitty. No, it's like, who are you?
Yeah.
And who are you? And how do we need to come together? And if we don't need to come together, your space over here and my space over here. And so I challenge all of us, and that's again why I'm creating this space, so we can just really shed light on authentic feminine being. Because I say anybody who got a whole bunch of friends that's a woman, somebody being fake. And when I say a whole bunch, I mean like 10, 12 besties. Like you're not being your true self, because nobody's cool with everybody. And if you're cool with everybody, you ain't cool with nobody. Like that's my take anyway.
It's very true. And I think sometimes women can be very superficial. Like, they like the women, like the girl Sherelle said on the show, she was like, I only like being around people who can do stuff for me. That's a real sentiment that women have. Like a lot of women want somebody around because of what they have, their stuff. They want to wear their stuff, or they want to share shoes. They want to talk, especially some of the more shallow women. They don't want nobody reminding them how shallow they are. They want to stay in that place. And the best way to stay in that is to surround yourself with like-minded people. It's no way that if you're shallow and you know that you should be improving, you don't want to be around no go-getters. You don't want to be around somebody that's going to call you out. You want women that's going to keep telling you like, no, boo, that shit you're doing is cool. It's just that, to me, it's not helpful because I've made a commitment to wanting to be the best all the time for me. I can't be pacified with flattery and stupid shit. Like
Yep.
either we're getting better together, or I don't have time to sit around and talk about mundane things with you
Yep.
and shoes and bags and all that. And I do I do like shoes and bags. But if that is the totality and nature of our conversation, we can't talk about the spirit. We can't talk about how we feel. We're not counseling each other and checking each other. We're not talking about business. We're not talking about family. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Right. Shooting the shit. And ain't nobody getting nowhere. Girl,
No.
and I definitely admire you for being authentic, obviously on this show, but even in your friend group saying, hey, you had to cultivate that new community once you got to that new location.
Yeah.
And so new location, which at the time was New York City.
Yeah.
And then now you're vibrating at the New York City frequency,
Yeah.
obviously. And then so people who align with your energy are going to naturally come to you. And I think ever since 2020, again, we're coming into our relationships, whether it's marriage, romance, like dating, and friendships.
Yeah.
We got to be way more authentic than what was considered okay, pre 2020, because honestly, 2020 was, and that's kind of, Jessica, just for context, I like kind of frame some of our conversations since like post 2020, because I see now as the new world. This is a new earth, a new experience on planet Earth, right? Like we're not in the same timeline where you got to stomp on people to make it happen. And even the patriarchy is falling. All these systems we see are completely crumbling. And so now we're just talking through adapting to this new world. And so in that, it's number one is authenticity, like being ourselves. Granted, we met people in college or maybe in some type of institution where you were being a version of yourself just to survive, but that version of you is no longer welcome on New Earth, right? Like you got to just be who you are, and whoever is for you will naturally be drawn to you. So you talked a little bit earlier about spirituality, Jessica. We done went to New York. We done talked about Ghana. Oh, I think your video went out for a second.
Let me fix that.
Okay, and while you do that, if you're new here, welcome to the Goddess Giselle podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We are talking to Jessica Veronica, a fashion expert and tech girly. And so, what I was saying is that we talked about being grounded, and you kind of touched a little bit about spirituality. Jessica, how do you stay grounded in your own, I guess, your own world? Because you've been doing big things, right? So how do you take care of Jessica and kind of ground yourself?
Life grounded me during COVID.
Okay.
When I didn't know I was going to have to leave New York. I thought I was coming home for like a week maybe. And what happened was my dad had a bout with cancer, stage 4 cancer. So I was like, I'm going to be 10 toes down. I'm a daddy's girl. I was like, I'm going to be here for his healing. We had to really pray. We had to really get right with God. And I think I had never been so sure that my father would see a miracle. I was like 10 toes down, and I was like, I know the word. I know God. I've been baptized. I know it. I know it. I know it. And so he beats cancer. Thank God.
Thank you.
Yes. And I was so grateful. And I thought that was going to be the end of those trials. And when I tell you that every system, everything that I ever bet on, everything that I thought I was collapsed all at once, the agency that I had with a partner, things that went crazy with that. I had to let that go. I mean, like I had to give up my apartment in New York. Like my whole structure of how I've been living crumbled. And what also happened at the same time is I entered a massive rest period. So what I didn't know is that the way my energy works, I'm a manifester if you do human design.
Me too. It ain't that many of us, girl. See, this is alignment, y'all. That's so cool. Okay. Manifestor in this big. All right.
So you already know, like, it's not easy.
Sorry. Keep going. Okay. Rewind. Back to your first thought. Okay, I'm listening. I'm quiet.
So, like, I'm a manifestor in human design, and part of it was like I have these huge cycles of creation, and like my life had been instinctually based. I could like see a vision, just make it happen. That's why New York worked for me, because there's so much energy in New York. You can tap into any energy you want. So I have been floating through life, not worrying about anything, not doing this, not doing whatever, just manifesting, 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 manifesting. And COVID came and smacked rest period. And I had no idea how to survive a period where you can't produce anything. And I'm a producer, I'm a creator. I give birth to so many ideas and thoughts, and they walk and they grow, and then I move on. I hit a period in my life where I couldn't do anything. And it spiraled me into an odd depression, because I didn't have the means that I'm used to having. I wasn't in the city I'm used to having. I didn't have my friends that I'm used to having. And I go back to the time when I was so sure about my father's healing, but I wasn't sure about letting God be in my life anywhere else. And I realized I was not sure about it. I was not trying to turn it over. I'm like, I've been rolling out, these things. So my spirituality was challenged completely. It was challenged completely. When my grandmother passed, it was challenged. When my cousin passed at the same time, who ran our family business, it was challenged again. The things that I was called on to do, I hit such a low point that I was literally like, I'm not suicidal, but I see how people want to end it. I know what it's like to feel such a deep pain in your gut and you can't see forward. But what I realized is that I am familiar with pain, and that my relationship with pain and my ability to welcome pain, allow it to happen, and to move past it transformed my world. And I think that a lot of people, we fear pain. It's going to hurt. I don't want to do this. It's going to hurt. I don't want to do it. I don't want to say this. It's going to hurt. I didn't have the privilege to avoid pain in my life. I've only had the privilege to have a plan to get from this side of pain to that side of pain. And within that, God is centered in that. And there's so many things I had to relearn about God and myself, and how much I did not trust God with my life, as crazy as that sounded. And it challenged me. Everything in my life was challenged. I wasn't willing to give it up, because I was like, how am I going to replace this? You don't know what my plans are. So just I do, like I said, I find new ways to punish myself. I have to challenge myself through like fasting, or like at that time, exercise really helped me. I was dating somebody. We were up at 4 a.m. all the time, because that's when he would work out. So I would work out too. And I was committing to pushing my body, pushing my mind, reading. My friends had to pick me up a lot. This was the first time. I don't think my friends ever even seen me in these moments where I'm like, I ain't got it. Like, I ain't got it emotionally to give. So like, honestly, some of the things that helped me to stay grounded again, I would say fasting, praying, meditating, sweating. I have to sweat, listening, being still, because I'm a busybody. We're manifestors. We make shit happen. Like, that is, we don't have to, like, so, every so often you built yourself, and then you might go through a period where you have to kill everything that you built, and then cut that ego head off, and like, come back out a different person. And girl,
has she come out, or are you still building? I mean, has she come out the next version of you, or are you still in the season of rebuilding?
The Phoenix has arisen. I am like, now I'm like, I just turned that corner where I'm like, I like this. I know who I am now. I know what I'm about right now. But it was ugly. It was ugly. I was like, God, why would you put this burden on my life? But to whom much is given, much is required.
Yep.
So that's where we at.
Okay, well, I'm so nice to see you here with us, Phoenix, who has risen from the ashes. And also, I wanted to comment, the National Suicide Hotline for anyone who is experiencing any kind of thoughts is actually 988. You can dial that on your phone at any time. I worked on that campaign back when they first launched it. Yep. And so National Suicide Hotline is 988. So if you're experiencing any type of emotions, especially right around now, because it's just a lot going on the planet, y'all. It's not just America. This is a global upheaval of everything that we once knew. Is just shattering. We got natural disasters, but then also financial disasters, unemployment, health, everything. So don't know that you're not alone. And that's why I've created spaces like this, because even myself, I've been on my own journey back to healing, and I call it a journey back to yourself, right? Because again, we had to be a certain version of ourselves to survive, but now the planet is on a thriving frequency. And so she's like, hey guys, You're going to have to level it up to the love space, to the heart chakra. And if you need time or you need space, do what you got to do, but you're going to have to like ascend with the planet. So definitely check out 988 for the National Suicide Hotline. Jessica, thank you so much for being transparent. I'm right there with you. I felt this. Well, I would say mine started when my grandma died. So, or when she transitioned, rather, because death is not real. But we'll say when she transitioned to the spirit realm, which was like 2015, 2016, I started my own personal journey trying to figure out who I was beyond my relationship with my grandma. Because she's, like I told you offline, my family's from North Carolina. And so my roots are North Carolina. Even though I was raised in Alabama, I'm rooted in North Carolina. And so that was hard for me too, because it's like I never really related to my people who I met along my journey in Alabama. But believe it or not, Jessica, it took for me to become an adult to really honor that my roots are in North Carolina and Nigeria and Georgia, which is where I am now. Yes. And so the impact has always been very personal and spiritual. So similar to you, when my grandmother transitioned, I just really had to start loving on myself and really find myself. And I think that's when I started that journey. But during that process, I did come into love, which loving myself first. I'm talking about radical self-love, which I think I encourage that for everybody. Like, I mean, love yourself so much that people get annoyed by how much you love yourself. But when I started doing that, that's when I attracted love into my life. And really, I've been on a strip going up ever since. But it did take a lot of personal work and doing that work. And like you said, Jessica, I think shout out to my husband. He saved me, because had I not met him and we not connected, Jessica, I would have found myself in a position where everything I knew was just going to be stripped away from me. You know, like on Black Panther, the power of the Black Panther is stripped away.
Yeah.
Girl, what I tell you, the power of the manifester was about to be stripped away. And I mean, everything that I do, like, it's so funny that we talking about this, but girl, when I tell you I'm right there with you, I've been floating this whole time. I ain't thought twice about nothing. And my heart and my gut, my spirit, everything, because I'm very spiritual. So spirit was telling me, like, Giselle, believe it or not, it was Beyonce when Beyonce put out Get In Formation, which was 2016. I got that was a spirit, I guess like mile marker. And what I took that as is she's saying, hey, y'all, listen up now. Something finna happen. And when this thing happened, you want to be in formation. And and really, we're talking to Black women. We want you to be in formation with your partner, because what you about to endure gonna be so hard that you're gonna need somebody right there by your side. And so I got that code. I was like, okay, Beyonce, she right. Everybody, we need to get our man. It might be a Black Bill Gates in the making. Like, and granted, I'm in the South too. So I know if I was in New York, baby, I probably wouldn't have been thinking so clearly. Right, I get it. Okay, New York is not the South, so I probably would have. I get it. Okay, but I'm in the slow South, and so I got that code. And 2016, I was like, all right, Beyonce is trying to get us all in formation. She's really telling us it's time to assume your position as the king, queen timeline, because whatever's coming is going to impact your whole world. And then 2017, I met my husband, or whatever, my now husband, and then I've been on a different journey ever since. But the crazy thing about it, which is wild, is like, even when you get in a relationship, it's a whole different world of existence, and that nobody talks about. I guess I'm talking about it now, but it's like the identity that you created. And I've shared this before. Like, I kind of grew up in Barbie world. Like, I was all about my girls and Barbie life, and everything was just so delusional. And, you know, we're manifestors, so it really wasn't delusional, because we was actually making this stuff happen. But let's just say you're living in a very much Barbie coded world where everything is just in the clouds, you know? And what happened is, when you get in a relationship, if you're with a man, men are naturally grounded. Okay. they're naturally on earth. Like they're like rulers of the land, and women are rulers of the spirit realm. And so we rule the unseen, unheard. Like we have the very strong intuition, but men are grounded. That's why some men like sports, or they like watch the news, because they can see through what's happening right now. Most of the time, a lot of women live in the past or live somewhere other than right now. Like we like to escape through our imagination. And so what happened with me, like I said, I lived in a Barbie world. Like it was just fueled by girl power. And I hadn't really created space for a man to come into my life. Like my bachelorette years, which I would say was most of my 20s. I was just girly girl power, girl. And it's like and think of it universally. If you're living in a girl Barbie world, you have to make room for a man to come and be in your life, or you're going to just stay in Barbie world. And
that's the truth.
That's just how it is. And I know some women, and I'm, like I said, I'm Nigerian and American. So like, I definitely value my family that I'm creating over really everything. Like it's me and then whoever lives in my house. But I know some women may not agree with that. They'll be like, girl, I love my girls. Like, my friends come before everything. I'm not that girl. Like, I don't agree with that. But so like, because my grandma was the same way. Like she's a North Carolina girl. When she got married, it was her husband, and all her children. Okay. Which my mama, you see what I'm saying? Shout out to the North Carolina women. Like, no, it's your family. Like everybody used to go to a big mama house, and it's family.
Yeah.
And so like what I say all that to say, as women, if you want to become a wife or mother, let's just say wife, because let's start there. Okay. If you want to become a wife or be in a relationship, you do have to create space for someone to come into your life. And when I finally got on my own, because I had a roommate for years, I'm in Atlanta, big city. But then I got a loft. And when I had my first loft downtown, so girl, I was living my New York City version of Atlanta. It wasn't New York. There you go. Like we was living downtown, very, nice setting or whatever. But I noticed one thing I did, Jessica, and I'll give you this as some tea or some tea. I had a studio loft, but I had two of everything. So like I had a table setting for two. I had two seats. I just so happened to have two beds. I had two. You see what I'm saying? I had two beds, two couches, two chairs, two of everything. And because I did that, when I met my man or my boyfriend at the time, it was just perfect symmetry because I had already had space open for another. Exactly. And this was in my actual living quarters. But even if it's not your actual home space, you got to have a little, like some time somewhere for this other person that you're manifesting into your life. And when I did that, I noticed like that helped me manifest, my man. But the point is, I had to create space and I had to be intentional about that. And then even in doing that, I had to move some people out the way when it comes to this Barbie girl world, because baby, what you say at the beginning of this conversation, you can't pour from an empty cup. And when you start centering yourself, you have to make room for who is rocking with you. And some people can be very selfish about you, right? Especially if you are the vibe, like you said earlier, Jessica. If you are bringing the high energy and the this and the that, people can get kind of selfish about you, and they get feel a type of way if you start evolving or kind of going into another chapter.
Energy on your stuff.
That part. And I think that is where a lot of my millennial sisters are kind of in a fork on the road, because of course you want to go to Paris with your best friend. Of course you want to travel the world and do all the things you want to do. You can do that. But if you're trying to become a family woman, then there are certain pieces of your life that you have to make adjustments in so that you can make room for this next chapter. And that's just my take, and that's what I think. And then when you get in the next chapter, that's a whole new story. It's
Yeah.
a new story.
But I love that because the man is supposed to be head of the household. You got to make space for that. And even as
Mhm.
like as I feel like people think that because you're an independent woman, you don't know how to make space for a man. But like I grew up with a father and 4 brothers, and I appreciate, love, and adore men's roles. I don't want our
Mhm.
roles to be the same. I don't believe we should mix the roles. I think we can delegate who does what, but I value what men bring to the table when they're whole and they're wonderful. And I had a homegirl, she had a new man and they had a new baby. And she had come to me one day because she was like, you know, my homegirl kind of giving me some shit about being home, but my man asked me to be home. And I was like, listen, forsake that homegirl, be home with your man because
Mhm.
that's who you're coming together with and how you're going to get your blessings. Don't let your homegirl have you in the street and your man ask you to be home. Not your man. I was like, you gotta be okay with that. I was like, I will never judge
Yep.
you. If your man say something, I'm gonna respect him enough. Whatever he say for you, go and do it. As long as it's healthy, I ain't got no problem with it.
Yep. And I do think that it depends on the individual, and with every generation there are changes, and I love to talk about that on this show. So I think so anyway, boomers,
Yeah,
okay, our grandma and them, they had their husband, and it
yeah,
was just standard operating procedure. Okay, so grandma married, multiple children, yada yada, living a very traditional life. But boomers, which would be our moms, they kind of became the more independent. I'm gonna go get me a job, baby. I ain't finna be up under no man because I saw my mama doing that and I want my freedom,
yeah,
right? So the boomer women, they kind of got a little emotion about themselves. And they, of course, they had children, but it was just they did what they needed to do, how they wanted to do it, right?
yeah.
Then you have Gen X, who I'm actually finding out from my own observation. I met about 5 women in the past week or so, the Gen X women. A lot of them, well, the women I've come across lately, no kids, never been married, and not trying to be. Okay. Not trying to be, never been married. Kind of like what's her name? The light-skinned lady with the pretty hair, Tracy Ellis Ross.
Oh yeah,
Her. You know what I'm saying? Like just single and free and just love that, like I, that's what I'm seeing, a pattern among the Gen X group. They enjoy their freedom and they just kind of doing them. And then no kids. A lot of them, they not having no kids. But then with millennials, I find that we're a little split down the middle.
yeah, yeah.
Like some of us are in the traditional setting, like I want a wife or want to be a wife, want to be a mother. But then some of us are like, I'm not settling for nobody that ain't on my level. So I'm just gonna continue doing me until he come. And if he don't come, it is what it is. So Jessica, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you had said your grandma, you were influenced by your grandma, your mama. Are they in your ear? Look, like, and what are your thoughts on that as the
Yeah.
modern woman? Because we're modern women. What do you think about
So
that?
so when you're in New York, you have New York relationships, and like New York relationships are very unique. It's like you putting your career, your money, whatever first. You going. No one's putting pressure on you. As soon as I came back home, mind you, I got cousins that's been moms since they've been like 16, 17, 18, 19. As soon as I came back home, everyone like, you just don't want to be married, do you? I'm like, me? Not want to be married? You just don't want to have no kids. You're not ever going to have no kids. My own doctor had to get a new one. Kept being like, do you even want kids? I'm like, what do you think? Like, of course, but I know for myself several things. One, I have had the privilege of living a very selfish life of doing what I want, following every hunch, dream, idea, notion, being in love, being out of love. And I know how selfish that makes me. I don't think it would be fair for me to be a single mom. I'm not the generation of single moms that can put everything on the line for the kids and they just get through. I'm not. I need a man to help me raise kids. I need a man to help me do basic stuff, car stuff, trash stuff, house stuff, be
Yep.
smart with finances, know about accounting stuff. It is easy because I think we're manifestors and because I also have been a consultant where I can solve problems. It is not hard for me to play my role with a man. What I have noticed is that when you are in union with someone, you get their good and bad. And as someone who constantly wants to be great, I can't fall victim to being with someone who's not really committed to that all the way because it holds me up. Because I'm an all-in
Yep.
type. I'm either all in or I'm all out. And all I need from a partner is not so much perfection. I just need to know that if we lock in, we're locked in. Contraction. I like contracts. I'm okay with prenups. I'm okay with all that because I got to know if we decide to go all the way, we're going all the way for ourselves, for our kids, for our families. I have to have a man that I feel good about helping me take care of my parents as they age. I have to have a man that's good with, can you manage all these assets that's all around?
Mm-hmm.
But when we're out, on top of that, I just feel like I'm more of a traditionalist in the sense of I can play my role as a wife and I look forward to it, but I'm more as a modern woman as on like, but I'm not here to just, you can't okie doke me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Quality. I don't want to just pick any. Sometimes my mom's like, well, you have to mold a man and you have to teach him and you have to learn and then you have to. And I'm like, that's fine when it's quality. What I can't do is, I can't mold bad soil and expect to grow something good from it. So I have had the privilege of just being able to walk away from things and be like, no. But what I want to do now is center. Yeah, a toodaloo. I'd let you know you. I'd like to do is center God in it, and I've already told God, like, when you bring me my husband, I'll promise I'll be good, and I will recognize it, and I will play my role. But like, Lord, don't make me actively look. I'll be here getting in shape, establishing stuff, but like, and I think all of even my New York women, a lot of them have come into the understanding, like, now that they understand themselves, I know what type of partner I want or what I want to be and how I want to be loved and how I want to be respected. And it's like, okay, it's a different world now. So,
yep. Well, girl, I am rooting for you. Listen, because I've seen so many women like myself, and then the times have changed. Like the men are, well, I don't know nothing about the men, but let's just say I see many women like us who are happily married. Or I saw this girl in New York. She's a creator, and she manifested her man. They look great together, and she got married, and now she in New York. But this girl, let me tell you, she's very routine, and she don't play. Like she is so routine. Like I can't handle that. Like she is almost like you said, Navy SEAL. She Navy SEALs when it comes to being a wife too. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, okay, I just made the breakfast. Now I'm finna make the lunch. Now I'm finna like she. And that's what I say. Like women who about their business, they gonna get married when they ready, because marriage is a business, and you got to be a business minded woman to even think that you're gonna have to invest in me with your life. I'm just listen with your life. And then you have 4 brothers. That's kind of a flex a little bit. So you didn't come from Barbie world. You had some balance.
Yeah, and the balance makes you almost too hip. Because you peep things early. And
yeah.
Like, that's not going to fly. A lot of women probably have a softer approach to seeing certain things. I'm like, come on now. Like, absolutely not. Unless you're trying to, like, shoot the one over this. No. But we're raised with such a balance of, like, but also your brothers give you super princess treatment. So all of our brothers, super princess. So you know how you're supposed to be treated. So when people come and they don't come in that energy, you might try to work with it, but eventually you like, canceled next. So yeah.
Girl, listen, just hearing you talk, you got a few advantages there. Continue to play your game, Jessica. I see some good things happening for you. You're playing a pretty solid game here. Don't play with Jessica Couch now, Jessica Veronica. No kids. Listen, the stats are statting. Then she got 4 brothers. Like, you're not going to play in her face. I love that. Yeah. That's good. So she's not naive. And then you lived in New York. Like, come on.
But I cook like a Southern belle.
Listen, it can also throw some food out. Well, whoever you watching this, you got a friend that's a friend, y'all better let him know. Like, he can't come with no games, okay? Jessica, I love it. So before we wrap, and I feel like I could keep talking to you for the rest of the night, I want to talk about where you are today. So I know you said you do have a day job. Of course, we're going to pay our bills or whatever. But what I read about was looks.ai, and is that your current baby? And talk to me a little bit about what that is, because we're getting back to that fashion tech AI intersection.
Yes, this is a perfect way to close. So Looks.ai is a culmination of everything that I've learned in the industry as it relates to technology and solving problems. And it's a peer-to-peer discovery platform that will allow you to shop based on people who have similar body types and style with you. Now, we released 2.0 I think year before last, and we tested it with a small group of people, got a lot of good feedback. And now we're about to release 3.0 because AI has allowed us to push the boundaries of what the platform can do. And so you'll be able to shop with people who are built like you and have your style, and like you'll be able to interact with garments, and then the data that's attached to it will be all about size, fit, what to wear it with, and you can filter it the way you want. So what we're trying to do is basically create a better way of shopping that's personalized completely to you, because there's millions of products in the world, and it's like, all I ever want to see is what you know is best for me. And it learns you, it gets better, sharper, it understands what you bought, it understands what's in your closet. So when you had spoken earlier, you said you want something that can make those decisions for you. The platform will be able to do that and only offer you things on your phone that you absolutely would buy. And so like that is what we're trying to build. And that, to me, that would be my contribution. Also, there's an aspect to it where there is an affiliate marketing fee. So I'm hoping that people who look like us and have style and, influential can still profit from being so in their own space and platform. So yes, that is my baby. And
wow.
build it faster, but I'm going to go slow with this so that is correct. And when I get it out, it's done right. So thank you for asking.
Do you have no problem? I saw that. I was like, that's cool. Well, do you have a goal of launch? I know, or even coming to market, like any idea this maybe next year, this year?
I would like by my birthday to release the 3.0 version. And I'm sure that's going to put a lot of pressure on my CTO, but like, he's not going to, I'm going to skip this part of the episode for him. But I would like by my birthday to have a version of it. Absolutely.
And that is June, May. Okay, so if we have it, y'all, we're gonna test it out. Okay, gotta let us know, because the problem is that is a problem in the market. So that's really cool that you're even creating something to solve it, because what I've seen is that the girls are kind of lost right now, because fashion, we went to the leisure route, right? We were all wearing leisure since 2020. Literally, we've been in leisure clothes, and in Paris, for example, which is, I think it's Paris Fashion Week right now. So, oh my God. But the girls are actually wearing clothes in Paris. Like, they putting on clothes.
They putting that on.
And in America, the youth are wearing pajamas outside.
Terrible. The youth is so bad. I'm like, I really want them to go back to uniforms for schools or something, because I'm like, it makes sweatpants and sweatshirts, and I love a good sweatshirt sometimes. It makes it look so dingy and just so like, why would you wear this to school to learn?
Yeah, it's bad. I'm talking about, I see everybody in pajama pants. I'm like, what's going on? Even me and my husband talked about how we are anti pajama, Christmas pajamas. Like, no, you're not about to see us in no pajamas on the internet. Like, why? When did this become a thing? It's not. No, we need this. I'm putting it on the record. We don't like it. It's not cute. That's for your family. Like, I don't want to see nobody in their pajamas. Like, it's just getting out of hand.
It's weird.
It is. It's weird. It's too intimate.
Yeah.
But Jessica, okay, one more question. If you would give us 3 style tips right now for the woman on the go, what would they be?
Number
one,
what
we need to put in our closet, whatever. Like, okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay, number 1, shop for your shape. Always. Okay. And the goal of shopping for your shape is to balance your body into a figure 8. So if you have broader shoulders or you have broader hips, whatever, you want a nice balance, make sure whatever you buy is for your shape. Number 2, I think every girly has to have a long trench of some sort, like an all-weather trench. You can have a winter trench, and then you need a spring trench, because a trench can dress up a look quickly. I got one when I was in Barcelona. I absolutely love it. It's made out of linen. The cut is fantastic. And every time I put it on, people think I'm dressed up. And 3, I like jewelry. I think jewelry elevates anything. So make sure you keep your jewelry on you. It doesn't have to be trendy. It can be an heirloom, whatever. But like, jewelry, a nice little trench, and shopping for your shape, you can kind of move around in the world and be good.
All right. Thank you. On the record. And do I have all 3? I'm working. I want to do better at the number 1, because I have my twins are big, and I mean, my chest, right? And so I be trying to like make sure that I give them space, but I'm also not popping out of anything. My mama, now you know if your mama tell you something, you gotta listen. One day, I listen. Last time I saw her, I was like, "Mama, what's wrong with me? Tell me something wrong so I can." You know how they be. I'm like, "Nope, give it to me straight up." She said,
Yeah,
"Your bra too." Look, she was like, "Your bra too little." I was like, "Oh, all right, let me go give you some new bras. I had got a fitting."
Yeah.
So any way I could improve, but I show, you know, she from North Carolina. They gonna shoot. We ain't shooting the shit. We gonna keep it straight. She was like, you need a bigger bra. Okay, so I went and got me some bigger bra. So any way we can elevate our looks, like it's needed. We always need it.
Tailor.
Oh,
Find a tailor. Get familiar with your tailor. Love your tailor and go frequently. Even things you think don't need tailoring, take it in there and just ask them what would make it better. You'd be surprised how well things fit afterwards. It is incredible.
Okay. And Jessica, how can people reach you if they want to connect with you about your story, your work, just anything? How can they reach you?
Follow me on Instagram. It's @_ Jessica Veronica _ You can find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Veronica Couch. You can find me anywhere and reach out to me, DM me. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see my TikTok where I have a lot of videos about fashion tech. I'll be dropping a curriculum in the next couple of months for anybody interested in fashion technology. And I'm starting to show up more and speak at different places. So if you are interested in the industry, just follow me and let me know. And you can also email me at jcouch@Luxor and Finch, LUXOR and Finch, FINCH.com.
Awesome. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Jessica. It's so nice to like meet you and get to know you and just really vibe with you. And I just feel like I've been all over the world. I feel like I just left Ghana. I was also in New York for a little bit. I feel like I got a brand new wardrobe and I just left my tailor. Okay. Like that all just happened in the midst of this conversation. So keep doing your thing. And thank you again for being here. And I really appreciate you again sharing your voice with us. And with that being said, y'all, this is episode 15 of the Goddess Giselle podcast, where we highlight women making an impact in the community. And with that being said, we'll talk to you later. Until next time, bye.
Thank you.